Hashallah Adonai, Tzaddik. Setz sich a Welt und hör euch mit Chor. You've got to be taught to hate and fear. You've got to be taught from year to year. It's got to be drummed in your dear little ear. You've got to be carefully taught. You've got to be taught to be afraid of people whose eyes are oddly made, and people whose skin is a different shade. You've got to be carefully taught. You've got to be taught before it's too late, before you are sick. Children may not obey, but children will listen. Children will look to you for which way to turn, to learn what to be. Careful before you say, listen to me. Children will listen. Careful the wish you make. Wishes are children. Careful the path you take. Wishes come true, not free. Careful the spell you cast, not just on children. Sometimes the spell may last past what you can see and turn against you. Careful the tale you tell, that is the spell. Children will listen. How do you say to a child who's in flight, don't slip away and I won't hold so tight? How can you say that no matter how slight won't be misunderstood? What do you leave to your child when you're dead? Only whatever you put in its head. Things that your mother and father had said, which were left to them too. Careful what you say. Children will listen. Careful you do it too. Children will see and learn.
music in his heart. His life's about to start. His body's going wild. My child, my child,
Our child.
Children, please throw the kid a celebration and relax. I'll bring women from the wrong side of the tracks. We'll have a ball. I guess I'll have to raise this Jason myself. Isn't he an asshole? Isn't he a good? The cause for such a Jesus, he's an asshole. It's Jason is bad. This is the year. This is the year. Jason's bar mitzvah. This is the year of Jason's bar mitzvah.
It's a lesbian from next door. For you, delicious food for you. New bar mitzvah cuisine. Here's dietetic, pernicious, gefilte fishes, food that's from the heart.
Seconds, please.
So take a bite and see if all your friends agree. It's
Yummy, 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 yum. We'll have one perfect time. We'll spend billions of dollars. Oh God, we'll have flowers galore. And the members of mine. There'll be chandeliers set round the room with the men in tuxedos. There'll be food like food never before. What a day to remember. This is the year of Jason's bar mitzvah.
They're more excited than they should be.
This is the year of the child when he spreads out his wings. There's music in his heart. His life's about to start. His body's going wild. My
Good Shabbos, good Shabbos. So if you look at page 4 in your program, you will see that it's my favorite Shabbat on the calendar. It is the one and only Shabbat where we get to sing Flori Jagoda's Pesach Alamano. And if you look to the lyrics, you can see why this is such a singular, and in just a moment you'll hear why it's such a beloved tune. Purim is over, Passover is at hand. This is the Shabbos where we celebrate the differentiation. So join us, page 4.
Purim, 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 mano, Pesach, Pesach, alamano, los masas están faziendo, los yapraquis están cociendo, aman, 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 el Dio bendito está
It is so good and so sweet to sit together. There is no actual Jewish calendrical value to like the Shabbos that happens immediately after Purim, when we're still reveling in the joy of everything that happened, the news flashes, the over 20 languages read in the Megillah, the takeaway home in Tashin. There was so much to celebrate. But we are definitely feeling that today is spring, right? I am wildly inappropriately overdressed for what the temperature ended up being here in New York City today. But how glorious to feel sunshine on our skin, and it really just imparts the feeling of the joy and gaiety that we feel from Purim, that sense of everything is subject to change, the wheel turns, and the weather flips, and yet we feel this sense of anchor with Pesach. Pesach is the reason that the Jewish calendar is centered the way it is. It must happen in Nisan and it must happen in springtime. And so we're sort of moving from the random into the preset order, and we need both of those poles on our calendar in order to keep us in balance. It is so beautiful to be able to gather with everybody here in our sanctuary. Hello to all of our friends online who come to us from so many places. Please shout out in the chat where you're coming from tonight, and the lightning fast fingers of Sharon Golub will be delighted to welcome you to CBST. And it is our custom that has been built upon, as all good customs are in Judaism. We've always loved to welcome people for whom it's your first time at CBST. If you'd like to introduce yourself, you can wave at me and I'll call on you, give a name, a place from which you are coming, and we'll let you be first in line at our re-inaugurated Oneg downstairs tonight. And we expand the definition to say, if this is the first time that you've been home in a long time, if this is your first time back in the CBST sanctuary after what feels like a lifetime, we want to wish you good Shabbos too. So who is here for the first time or the first time in a long time? Yes, please, in the middle.
Hi, my name is Stacy. I'm from Long Island, and I joined during COVID, like right before COVID.
Well, welcome to the sanctuary, Stacy. Really glad you're here. Shabbat Shalom. Yes, please. No, you're just waving to Long Island. Excellent. Yes. I am so glad that you're back, Julia. Julia is a role model. Julia became Bar Mitzvah on Zoom during COVID. Part of our awesome Adult B'nai Mitzvah cohort, who COVID turned our expectations inside out. And let me tell you, Julia lanes a great aliyah and gives a fabulous Devar Torah. Who else is here for the first time or back after a long time? Yes, please, in the back.
Yeah, David Rosenthal, and I spent more time with CBST on Zoom last year than I ever had in all the years put together. And I'm in the new Bar Mitzvah cohort.
Yeah.
Well, this is my first time back in the actual building.
Welcome back to the building, Dave. You've been in the Zoom room for months on end, but welcome to the other room where it happens. Nice to see you, Dave. Yes, please. Welcome, Ashley from Hoboken. Shabbat Shalom. Anybody else? I'm only looking for people who raise their hands. We are not in the business of outing those who have not been here in a while. Yes, please.
We're delighted to be back. It's just amazing.
We welcome Nancy and Judy, who inhabit this bima and built this community with such love and such dedication. Welcome back to the sanctuary, my loves. Anybody else? Well, it's delightful to be surrounded by people for whom it is your first time or your first time in the physical walls. And there is nothing sweeter than the first time in a long time, even if last week feels like a really long time ago. To bring in our Shabbat lights tonight, I want to invite two people to the bima who are marking significant yortzites in their lives, who are honoring the memories of those that they love, and may this light that they kindle continue to illuminate for them all the blessings that they walk in honor of their parents. So I want to invite Stephen Kolodny and also Stacy Asael. Please join us. And then everybody, you can find us on page 39 in multiple languages.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu.
We invite you to rise in body and spirit to welcome Shabbat angels with the words Shalom Aleichem, peace be to you. Page 40.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Botem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seichem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
As you have a seat, greet one of the angels who surrounds you. Do it online. Say Shabbat Shalom. I'm on page 53, kind of in the midst of Psalm 95. Yours are the depth of the earth, mountain peaks are yours alone. The sea is yours, you made it. The dry land was shaped by your hand. Come, let us sing to the eternal, ring out praises to the rock of our rescue. Offer thanks, ring out praises in joyous song. Lechu Neranana. page 58.
Zamru Adonai Bechinor B'kol Zimra B'chatzotzot B'kol Shofar Harim Lifnei HaMelech Adonai Yirad Hayam Umlo Tevel V'yoshveiva Ne'arodim Chamucha Yachad Harim Yeroneinu Lifnei Adonai Kira Lishmat haaretz Lishmat tevel v'tzeh Ve'amim b'meisharim Yirad hayam umlo Tevel v'yoshveiva Ne'arodim chamuchav Yachad harim Yeroneinu Yachad harim Yeroneinu.
We move now to Psalm 29, which is found on pages 62 and 63. And I just want you to perk up your ears for the sound of the voice of God. Kol Adonai is a refrain that's repeated over and over in this beautiful psalm, and the differing qualities of God's voice are reflected in metaphor, in music, and in tone. So please rise in body and in spirit for Mizmor LeDavid.
Mizmor leDavid, Chavul Adonai b'neilim, Havul Adonai kavod va'oz, Havul Adonai kevod shemo, Yishtachavu l'Adonai behadar kodesh, Kol Adonai
Please be seated if you are standing. I just want to make sure that everybody is completely attuned to the books that we use on these Kabbalat Shabbat evenings. We are the people of the book, and so at CBST we really double down by using many books. Our book, the story of our community, is written into the pages of your Siddur, Siddur Bechol Levavcha, with all your heart. And this was a work of community artistry. And each of its translations, I think, is more beautiful than the next. The way that it's so deeply rooted in the traditional understandings of the Hebrew, but also is queered to perfection. And in Lachad Odi, that's one of the places where you can find some of these thoughtful and carefully considered shifts that we've made in the language in order to represent a kind of song that we all can sing, a song of welcome, a song of love that explodes the definition of who we are waiting for and the position we find ourselves as we wait for Shabbat to come. We're also using a Shabbat program this evening, so you can see that for Lachad Odi in particular, Joyce, our brilliant music director, and Zevi, our wonderful cantorial student, have chosen two settings. It's traditional Lachad Odi is such a song filled with joy. You have to fill it with two musical compositions because there are just so many great ones to choose from. And tonight they come from the Israeli progressive community of Kihilat Zion, and then a composition by Shlomo Carlebach. And at the end of Lachad Odi, we will be engaging in this communal tradition of welcoming back those who are in mourning, those who have faced immediate and searing loss of somebody that they loved. They will enter after Lachad Odi, and if it is your custom to be standing to welcome the Sabbath Queen and facing the door, we'll ask that you remain so, whether that's in body or in spirit, so that when our community members re-enter CBST, we greet them with love, and we greet them with traditional words of consolation and of welcome. So you can find us in Siddur Bechol Levavcha on page 66 as we sing Lachad Odi together in a way that is singular, that is unique only to CBST.
Ay,
please remain standing in body and spirit as we welcome with love Merritt Oppenheim and Steve Oppenheim. And you can find at the bottom of page 71 several different ways to welcome them in Hebrew and in English. You can choose the one with which you are most comfortable. And we wish to you, Merritt and Steve, whether you're on your way in or not quite, Hamakom yinachem etchem, betoch sha'ar avelim ve'yavish lachem shalom. May God comfort you among all who mourn and bring you peace. Please be seated.
On Shabbat, we have a special psalm that is only for this day. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. It is so good to thank Adonai. Before we dive into this psalm together, let's take a moment of reflection. If it feels comfortable for you, you can gently close your eyes. If not, find a space on the wall or the floor to let your gaze rest gently. Take a deep breath in and let it out. And another. Feel your body rooted through your feet, through the chair. Feel your shoulders soften, your eyebrows unfurrow, your tongue unglue from the top of your mouth. This is a time of gratitude. We have entered into this day, this Shabbat, with so many emotions. Some of us have had a wonderful week, full of achievements and happiness and joy. Some of us have had a really tough week with hardships or grief or sadness. Take a few deep breaths and see if you can find a place of rest. Find a place of wholeness. We let this week go as we prepare to greet the next one with gratitude, with hope, and with wholeness. If your eyes were closed, I invite you to gently open them. Look around at the community that we have here. Look around at the community that we have online. Shabbat is a time of gratitude, but it's also a time of togetherness. Being together is such a gift. To mark this special time, we'll sing a setting of this special psalm for Shabbat that I actually grew up with at my home congregation in Newton, Massachusetts, and I have not sung this setting in probably 16 years. So this is a big nostalgic moment, but I've been told that this is a setting that might be familiar to many of you. So I look forward to singing it with you in community with all of you tonight. Mizmor Shir Le'yom HaShabbat Tov lehodot l'Adonai U'lezamer l'Shir
This evening, over the course of our Ma'ariv service, we are going to be addressing God with a number of different presentations. We will address God in the masculine, in the feminine, in the non-binary. We will give you some warning before each one happens. And to begin, as we are called to prayer, we'll be on the left side of page 78, which is the side that you expect. This is where we call God by God's name Adonai, a masculine presentation. And then for the prayer as evening falls, we will address God by Shekhinah, God's feminine emanation. So we invite you to rise in body and spirit, the left side of page 78.
Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Please be seated and join me on page 84 of the Siddur in this poem by Jane Kenyon. Let the light of late afternoon shine through the chinks in the barn, moving up the bales as the sun moves down. Let the crickets take up chafing as a woman takes up her needles and her yarn. Let evening come. Let dew collect on the hoe abandoned in long grass. Let the stars appear and the moon disclose her silver horn. Let the fox go back into its sandy den. Let the wind die down. Let the shed go black inside. Let evening come. To a bottle in the ditch, to the scoop in the oats, to air in the lung, let evening come. Let it come as it will, and don't be afraid. God does not leave us comfortless. So let evening come. Page 85.
Ma'avir hayom u'mevi halayla u'mavdila ben yom u'ben layla Shekhinah tzvaot shema El chaya v'kayemet Tamid timloch aleinu le'olam va'ed Brucha at Shekhinah
Brucha uvaruch shema.
Mariva Aravi
Amen. Page 86.
Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael Amcha ahavta Amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Otanu limadeta Alekeinu Adonai Eloheinu b'shokbeinu Uvkumeinu na'asiach bechukecha V'nismach b'divrei toratecha Uv'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed Ki hem chayenu ve'orech yameinu Uvahem negei yomam v'layla negei yomam v'layla Ve'ahavatcha al tasir mimenu le'olamim נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם מאוד על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
Please continue at your own speed through page 92.
Adonai Elohim, Emet.
Join me at the top of page 96. True and enduring, beloved and precious, awesome, good and beautiful is this eternal teaching. Your words are as precious to us as they were to our ancestors. We will lovingly teach them to the next generation of queer and straight Jews, our friends and families. This truth we hold to be forever and certain. You are our eternal God. O God, you redeemed us from Egypt. You set us free from all houses of bondage. You gave us eternal life and freedom, guiding us to express ourselves fully and openly. For this, we who know your love sing songs of praise to you, the living God, high and exalted, mighty and awesome. Praised are you, Redeemer of Israel. We're singing Mi Chamocha, the tune by Alana Arian, our beloved Brooklyn composer, on page 94. And then at the very end, we're going to address God in the Chatima as Hamakom, the place for all of us.
Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you, Adonai? Mi chamocha ba'elim, Adonai, mi chamocha nehedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef pelech, nora tehilot osef pelech. Malchutecha ra'u banecha, okei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam. Zeli anu ve'amru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Ya la la la, ya la 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 la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la. ונאמר כי פדתה אדוני את יעקב וגאלתו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוכה אתה המקום,
Ruchel Baruch Shemeh. Joyce and Zevi, that was so nice of you not to correct me on the bima. I forgot that Alana moved with her wife to Connecticut, but, you know, Brooklyn never really lets you go.
Terry.
Westchester? Oh, is that where that is? Oh. All right. I think we better move to page 98. It's a prayer for protection for all manner of things, big and small. Hashkivenu. Life is fragile. We remind ourselves of that each night before we go to bed. We pray that we can lie down in peace and that tomorrow we will rise up. We pray because we understand that life is a fragile gift, not an entitlement, not a given. None of us knows when our time will come. The gay community learned this lesson through AIDS, which matured us in a tremendously painful way. Hashkivenu acknowledges the evil that surrounds us and prays for protection. The only thing that remains in our hands is what we do with the time we have and how we live a given day. The knowledge of this fragility can either transform us or crush us. We can either seek solace in self-destructive ways, or we can seek purpose and strength. Hashkivenu reminds us that the life we have been given is a gift. Not one of us is exempt from this truth.
Shalom, Aleinu ve'al kol amei Yisrael, ve'al kol ha'amim, ve'al Yerushalayim. We rise in body and spirit on page 102 for Vishamru. So
We rise to speak, a web of bodies aligned like notes of music. This is the opening line of our alternative Amidah that you can find on page 124. It's a setting by Marge Piercy. The traditional Amidah is found on page 106, and you can find through both of them the skeletal structure of the blessings that we say on Shabbat in particular. Together we join in Chatzi Kaddish, and then the time is yours to do with as you wish, what page you follow or the words of your heart instead of the words on the page. And when you feel complete, you can have a seat. Chatzi Kaddish is on page 104.
יתקדש ויתקדש שמי רבה. ועמד יברח חילותי וימליך מלכותי. בחייכון וביומייכון ובחיי דרכו בית ישראל. בגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולם להוויה יתברך. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי לקודשה ויכולי לה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה. תושבחתה ולחמתה תאמירם בעלמא ויאמרו
page 112.
Modim anochnu lach, modim anochnu lach, shatanu Adonai Eloheinu, shatanu
We keep our voices united in words of prayer as we pray for the healing of our community, page 130. Mishaberach imotenu Sarah, Rivka, Leah, Rachel, Bilha, v'Zilpa, v'avotenu Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, hu yivarech v'yirapeh et hacholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors Sarah, Rivka, Leah, Rachel, Bilha, and Zilpa, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov bless us too. Bless and heal all those who are ill. Bless Harry Alberts, Risa Arlev, Harvey Lubitz, Joanne Salviani, Lori Siegel, Urvashi Vad, Rose Wachnun, Shep Wachnun, Chayasara Bathinda Rezel Shoshana, all those who we might list in the chat at this time, and all of those whose names we say out loud at this moment or hold in our heart. May all of these be blessed with a full and complete healing, a healing of spirit and a healing of body, together with those who are ill among the Jewish people and all among the world. May those who will not be healed on this earth be blessed with nights free from suffering and days filled with peace. May God grant strength and comfort to those who care for the sick. May God help us to find hope and courage as we face fear and loss. May all who are ill be surrounded by the love of friends, loving companions, families, and community. And let us say, Amen. Tonight, I think by simple beshert and coincidence, we have quite a quorum of former CBST presidents in the Kahal. I see Mike and Michael, I see Eric, and Greg is the one that I picked on as representative to read the prayer for our country tonight. If any of you would like to join Greg on the bima or recite along with him from your seat, we thank you for your combined years that you have given to the synagogue to make it the beautiful place that it is, with gratitude. I have a mic for you.
Source of all life, guide our leaders with righteousness, strengthen their hearts, but keep them from hardening, that they may use their influence and authority to speak truth and act for justice. May all who dwell in this country share in its bounty, enjoy its freedoms, and be protected by its laws. May this nation use its power and wealth to be a voice for justice, peace, and equality for all who dwell on earth. May we be strong and have courage, to be bold in our action and deep in our compassion, to discern when we must listen and when we must act, to uproot bigotry, intolerance, misogyny, racism, discrimination, and violence in all its forms, to celebrate the many faces of God reflected in the wondrous diversity of humanity, to welcome the stranger and the immigrant, and to honor the gifts of those who seek refuge and possibility here, as they have since before this nation was born. Let justice well up like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream.
We all say, Amen. Thank you. We continue with Kaddish Shalem on page 138. I invite you to rise if it is your custom.
Yikadav yikadav shemei Rabba. Amen. Ve'alma divrach chirtei ve'yamlich malchutei b'chayachonu v'yamachonu v'chayeducho Beit Yisrael b'galav v'zman kari ve'immeru. Amen. Yesh shmei Rabba mevorach le'olam olam ve'amaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitala v'yitala shemei dekudesha Rivu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma v'yimmeru Amen Titkabel tzalotahon uva'otahon d'chol Yisrael kodam uvuhon d'vishmaya v'yimmeru Amen Yehei shalom araba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael v'yimmeru Amen Oseh shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael ve'el kol yoshevei tevel v'yimmeru Amen
So I have to know, does anybody else wonder what it takes to make a rabbi? Not philosophically, not like what makes a great rabbi, but physically. Have you ever wondered what ritual happens where at one moment somebody's a student and the next moment they're ordained clergy? Am I the only one who wondered this until it happened to me, so that was very convenient? I see another rabbi in the room saying, I wondered too, and then it happened to her. I was fascinated by this question, and it's actually the identical process that Zevi's going to go through when they become a cantor. It's going to happen to Davia Deed and Yael Werber and Sam Rosen this year when they're ordained as rabbis and a cantor. I think that Rabbi Nancy Weiner and Joyce Rosenzweig are probably competitive in having witnessed the most of these moments when somebody becomes a rabbi or a cantor. But what do you think happens? Shout out suggestions, and Sharon, if there's anything good in the chat, I want you to yell it out. I want to hear what people in the chat thinks happens. It's a magic dust. Excellent suggestion. Yes. Smicha, the putting on of hands. Any other suggestions? I take wrong answers also. Sorry? Magic wand. Excellent. Fantastic suggestion. Yes?
They're anointed with a sword on the shoulder.
Sword on the shoulder, a la sword and the stone. I hope that representatives from JTS and HUC and RRC and Hebrew College are taking notes. Yes. Some sort of beit din. There has to be like a court, a quorum to make another one of you. All right. And anything coming in from the chat? Lots of question marks. So it is, in fact, the Hebrew word smicha, which, as Sarah rightly pointed out, comes from the word lismoch, which means to rest upon physically. But more figuratively, it means to rely upon. And that's the word that's translated as ordination. At Hebrew Union College, cantors and rabbis are both ordained. This is a fairly new iteration. It used to be that cantors were invested and rabbis were ordained. Cantors do a lot of holy work, and it's a very different educational process, but we have made the end result the same Hebrew word, smicha. One smicha is actually a document in modern times. It's conferred by your institution. It makes you a rabbi and attests that you have fulfilled all the requirements to become so. Mine is on very fancy parchment paper. One of Rabbi Moskowitz's 3 is on a cocktail napkin. I am not joking. You can ask him. But still today, for many rabbinic seminaries, the word is taken pretty literally, as it was done in its very first use when Moses transferred power to Joshua to become the next leader of the children of Israel. In the book of Numbers, chapter 27, in the sight of all the Israelites, Moses lays his hands on Joshua, vayismoch et yadav, and ordains him. At HUC, historically, it's been the president of the college who confers this smicha, and they lay their hands on your head or on your shoulders. Personally, I was ordained by Rabbi Aaron Pankin of blessed memory, and in a fascinating twist of history, the current president of HUC is not an ordained rabbi. And so, for the last several years, the highest ranking rabbi of HUC, who is the provost, Rabbi Andrea Weiss, has been the one performing this ritual, and she was the first woman to do so in the institution's history. And that is who will, God willing, ordain both Sam and Zevi. I found that experience personally to be incredibly meaningful and sweet. And frankly, I'm mostly just grateful that that tradition from Numbers was handed down as what we do instead of the ritual that we read about for ordination in this week's Parsha, which is Sav. It also comes from that same root. It uses the same word, lismoch. And I think as soon as I describe this ritual to you, just like a couple sentences, you will agree that this version is much more practicable and it requires less cleanup. So, ויקרב את האיל השני, איל המלוכים, ויסמכו אהרון ובניו את ידיהם על ראש האיל. Moses brought the second ram. This is the ram of ordination. Aharon and his sons laid their hands upon the ram's head, and it was slaughtered. Moses took some of its blood, put it on the ridge of Aaron's right ear, on the thumb of his right hand, on the big toe of his right foot, and then Moses brought forward the sons of Aaron, put some of the blood on the ridges of their right ears, on the thumbs of their right hands, on the toes of their right feet, and the rest of the blood Moses dashed against every side of the altar, and it goes on, and more entrails are involved, also matzah. But I want to focus on that more symbolic part of the sacrificial ritual of ordination, because we're going to see it again. In all that specificity, just a couple of Torah portions later, it's the ritual that any person, not just a priest, would go to signify recovery from tzara'at, the scaly skin condition that gets its own Torah portion in Leviticus, Mitzorah. Not only does it get repeated word for word, gesture for gesture, the placement of those markings is so careful, it has to be significant. Why the ear, the thumb, and the big toe, all on the right side? The thing that I thought of immediately is one of my very favorite poetic devices called metonymy. And this means referring to the parts, you indicate the whole. Ear, thumb, toe, top, middle, bottom of the body, perhaps. A new definition of head to toe. But perhaps the symbolic indication here is once ordained, a priest brings the entirety of their body and the entirety of themselves into service. And yet those locations are so specific and significant, maybe something else is at work here. Philo of Alexandria, who was an Egyptian commentator from the 1st century, noted the essential function of each of these extremities. Maybe that's the point. You have to make sacred what you hear. You have to make sacred what and how you touch. You have to make sacred your comings and goings. Why, you might ask, on the right side? Regrettably for the lefties in the room and online, the right side is symbolic of dexterity and strength, at least according to Philo and other commentators who come after him, but you lefties disprove that every day. They just weren't sure yet. But back to our point. It seems important to ascertain what symbolism is at work here because of the careful repetition in a different ritual performed by a priest and not performed on the priest. Once a Mitzorah, a person who has tzara'at, has recovered from the physical symptoms of the disease, before they can return to the Israelite camp, they have to be led through a complicated ritual by the priest who offers a sacrifice on their behalf and then anoints them in the same way that they were anointed when they were ordained. Right ear, right thumb, right big toe. It's too specific and too carefully copied to be a coincidence, I think. So what should the priest learn? And what should we learn about the repetition of this ritual? A friend of mine who was ordained the same year, Rabbi Becca Walker, offered a teaching that I think is so beautiful because it's a central lesson on what it means to be a rabbi and what it means to be a Jew, far transcending what it means to hold this specific and extinct ancient role of priesthood. The ritual connection between the Mitzorah and the priest comes to teach us the importance of the value of empathy. On the occasion of their ordination to the priesthood, Aaron and his sons now have a special role among the Israelites and with God. With all that excitement and responsibility of this high position, it could be easy to forget what it's like to be somebody on the margins. That experience of suffering is what this ritual comes to remind them of. In order for Aaron to be a great leader, he can't forget the suffering of those who are outside the camp. CBST exists and continues to matter because we too are an embodiment of this lesson. Even when we're feeling fully empowered and included, we need to remember what it's like to be on the margins. We use our own experiences of being the outsider, those experiences we ourselves have known in our lifetimes, and those experiences we carry as Torah of all of those queer and Jewish souls who came before us. We are the nexus of two marginalized communities. We exist because people came together and vowed that a Jewish community would exist where no one would be pushed out for their true identity. We use this Torah as a blueprint for empathy, no matter what the world throws at us. And Parshat Tzav reminds us that that feeling of empathy is not enough. It's our commitment to empathetic actions that matter, what we do with what we hear, what we touch, and where we go. When you're ordained at HUC, you get to choose the music you hear as you receive smicha. And this is what I chose. This is a setting of the prayer Modim that we sang at the end of our Amidah. It's by Debbie Friedman. And she focuses not on the opening line, which says, "We give thanks that you are the all-merciful one," but she focuses on the line that says, "There are signs of you every day. You have always been our hope." This is the dream and the aspiration of creating a more perfect world where everyone is brought inside. A world of peace, a world of understanding and empathy is only possible through careful listening, thoughtful action, and a willingness to go where those are most needed. May our ears, our hands, and our steps be attuned to these signs of holiness, and may we be the makers of that holiness in our lives and in the lives of others. It's on page 112 if you'd like to follow along in the Hebrew. May we commit our ears, our hands, our direction for the betterment of the world and for the increase of blessings. We rise on page 140 in body and in spirit for the words of Aleinu L'Shabeach. It's up to us.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, la'ateit
Please be seated. And join me on page 146 in a poem by CBST member Sheila Michaels of blessed memory. A voice is heard in Ramah, a voice that wails and bitterly weeps. Rachel, weeping for the children, refuses all comfort, for her children are no more. The Holy One promises her, your work shall be rewarded. There is hope in your future. The dead shall be holy. But our pain is fresh. Like David, we now see the beauty of Israel slain in the midst of battle. How can the strong be fallen? They were beloved and pleasant to us in their lives. They were a delight to us. We shall go to them, but they shall not return to us. We promise, in the words of Ruth, even death shall not part us from them. Their names are established over our inheritance from them. The names of the dead shall not be cut off from among us or from our gates. We accept the benediction of Naomi. Blessed of God is the one who does not forsake, showing kindness with either the living or the dead. Like the beloved of songs, we have set them as a seal upon our hearts. Love is as strong as death. We hold with love all the members of the CBST community who experienced recent loss. CBST member Solomon Vastias on the death of his aunt Rosetta Stour Brillman, Zichrona Livracha, who died on March 10th. CBST member Marla Berman on the death of her uncle Sheldon H. Berman, Zichrono Livracha, who died on March 13th. CBST member Sam Eber on the death of his mother Arlene Eber, Zichrona Livracha, who died on March 14th. CBST member Merit Oppenheim on the death of her father Robert Oppenheim, Zichrono Livracha, who died on March 14th. And CBST member Douglas Cohen on the death of his father A. Ross Cohen, Zichrono Livracha, who died on March 17th. We honor the memories of the yahrzeits of those CBST members that occur on this Shabbat: Lloyd Wells, Jack Spiegel, Michael Reichenbach, Annette Kraut, and our family and friends Elsie Cookie Goldstein, Jean-Marc Vallée, Mario Tanania, Max Schlossberg, Frank Licata, Sonia Kane, Michael McArdle, Judith Reichbach, Pepe Largman, Richard Marcus, and Evelyn Spivak. And we recognize the time in which we live where condolences are necessary all the time, at every moment, to all of those who have friends, families, and communities who are dying every day from the COVID-19 pandemic. As of today, the total number of deaths in New York City were 39,994. In New York State, 68,280. 995,132 across the United States, and 6,084,542 worldwide. If it is your custom to be standing when Kaddish is recited, if you are in a period of mourning, such as Shiva, Shloshim, the year of Avelut, or if it is the yortzeit of someone you love, or if you stand in solidarity with the mourners or in memory of someone who doesn't have someone else to say Kaddish for them, please do on page 150. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach hirute ve'amlich malchute, Bechayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehe shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehe shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru Amen. Zichronam livracha, may all of their memories be for blessing, and may we live our lives as blessings to their memories. I'd like to invite up, please be seated if you were standing, the Vice President of the CBST Board of Directors, Harold Levine, who has some announcements to share with our community.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. Shabbat Shalom and welcome to CBST. How glorious it is to welcome Shabbat with each of you in the sanctuary and all those joining online. Thank you to Ba'aleh Tefillah, cantorial student Ze'evi Tovlev, for sharing your voice and your neshama with us. Thank you to our inimitable music director, Joyce Rosenzweig, who continues to enrich our lives with music. Thanks to Rabbi Yael Rapport for your unfailing wisdom and service leadership and a fascinating drasha. I would also like to thank the staff, the clergy, and the medical team for work that has been done to make this sanctuary more open and more welcoming as things have moved along in the right direction with COVID. Those of you who came in noticed that if you were pre-registered, you could slip right in. And even if you weren't pre-registered, it was a very simple thing to show your vaccine card and fill out an attestation. And I'm glad to see so many people here. Those of us who are here see that we have just about all of the pews back, and we have a nice crowd. And I would invite anyone who is watching online, who's been thinking, is it time to come back and worship with us in person. Join us tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. for our traditional egalitarian Shabbat services led by cantorial intern Sam Rosen with a devar from CBST member Harry Lutrin. And join me for an informal Kiddush lunch afterwards, probably at Pan Quotidien around the corner. Nope, it's downstairs. Oh, yay. And join me for a Kiddush lunch afterwards right downstairs. Tomorrow, also, join Rusa LGBT, our LGBT plus Russian-speaking friends, for Hands Off Ukraine, a protest march in solidarity with Ukraine. I believe that should be our LGBT plus Russian and Ukrainian-speaking friends, for Hands Off Ukraine, a protest march in solidarity with Ukraine. Led by LGBTQ plus Ukrainians and other members of the Russian and Ukrainian-speaking diaspora in New York, all are welcome and invited. As the organizers say, the world is facing the largest crisis since World War II. Remaining silent is unacceptable. Visit Rusa's Facebook event page for more information, including the exact meeting location. They will be gathering from noon to 2:30 on the Brighton Beach Boardwalk. We also hope to see you tomorrow night at 7, is that correct, Rabbi? At 7 p.m. for Havdalah, led by Cooperberg Ritmaster Rabbinical Intern Yael Werber. Join us on Wednesday from 12 to 1 for a lunch and learn with former Board Vice President Liz Shire, who will be in conversation with Rabbi Rapport about her new memoir, which has gotten rave reviews all over, Never Simple. CBST figures prominently in this gorgeous, funny, and heartbreaking book. Really don't miss out. If you can clear your schedule Wednesday from 12 to 1, you should be at this Lunch and Learn. Join us on Thursday from 12 to 1 for a Lunch and Learn that will be a hybrid event in person at CBST as well as via Zoom. We'll meet Rabbi Noah Satat, the incoming Executive Director for the Association of Civil Rights in Israel. Learn about how Rabbi Satat's take on the most crucial civil rights issues happening right now. She will be in conversation with Rabbi Ayelet Cohen, Senior Director, under her other hat, Senior Director for the New Israel Fund, and our very own sabbatical replacement Senior Rabbi. Join us on Thursday. This is a busy week. Join us on Thursday at 7 p.m. for a Zoom event co-sponsored by CBST with Reverend Micah Busey from Judson Memorial Church called The Queer Power of Prayer. Micah used to post a short prayer every day on social media during the pandemic. These prayers have now been collected into a beautiful book called The Book of Tiny Prayer. Zoom link available in the e-news and on the website. Join us also on Thursday at 7 p.m. for an Aging Together singles event. Send us an email at agingtogethercbst@gmail.com and we'll send you the link. And don't forget to register for the retreat, April 19th through May 1st. We are so excited. Now, Joyce, can I get some really exciting announcement tinkles on the piano for just a second? Because I have a really exciting announcement coming up now.
I have no idea where you're
Great.
going.
Perfect. Thank you. I've been waiting to say this for 2 years. I am delighted to welcome you to our very first post-COVID in-person ONEG downstairs after services. This is how it works. Everyone keeps their mask on this floor, and you are welcome. The building will stay open. If you would rather schmooze with your mask on here or in the lobby, you are welcome to. Those who want to come downstairs, please keep your mask on the stairs and if you go into the bathroom. But once you get to the Evan Wolfson room, you can take your mask off if you wish. And we have time and space to nosh and schmooze. I checked, and there was nosh and schmooze. There was nosh and drink down there. I believe this deserves a shechechianu. Shabbat shalom to everybody, and it's so glad to see you.
Never let it be said that announcements were not action-packed with their own musical score. A quick clarification, this will be the last week that we do Havdalah at 7, given the time change. Havdalah at 7 on Zoom. Next week, 8 o'clock. Havdalah is a short teaching and schmooze session and the Havdalah blessings, and it's a 45-minute duration. So before we stack it later in the evening, enjoy it at 7 for one more week. And you heard right, there is an ONEG tonight, and it's sponsored. So the ONEG is sponsored by the CBST Board of Directors in honor of our first in-person ONEG in a rather long time. So grateful to be able to schmooze and nosh with you. By Noemi Maslia in celebration of our first ONEG, back after all these years, let's celebrate. And by Kenneth and Ira as we create our new normal with deep appreciation for our medical committee keeping us safe on the occasion of our first ONEG in over 2 years. And an excellent suggestion by Harold, once downstairs and everybody has a brownie or a cube of cheese in their hand, you are welcome to join us for a shehechianu. Tonight's live stream is sponsored by Stacy Asael. I honor the legacy of my parents, Nathan and Mona Ehrlich, Zichronam Livracha. Their memory is forever embedded in the hearts, minds, and faces of their children, grandchildren, and great-grandson. We had the best. By Sabrina Farber, with gratitude to the clergy, staff, and participants who made this Purim celebration so joyful, exciting, and spectacular. Kol hakavod. By Erica and Leslie, in gratitude to CBST's clergy, staff, and congregation for your help and healing prayers for our nephew, Charlie Ray Jacobs. He's out of the woods. We are supported by Lisa Brown in memory of my mother, Ruth Brown, Zichrona Livracha, on what would have been her 94th birthday. Miss you, Mom, every day. By Matthew Gore in loving memory of my grandfather, Harry Gore, Zichrono Livracha, on his 4th yahrzeit. By Stephen Kaladny, on the yahrzeits of my father, Martin Kaladny, Zichrono Livracha, and my aunt, Minna Demuka, Zichrona Livracha, who each survived the Holocaust and built new lives. They are thought of often and sorely missed. By Linda Solomon and Bonnie Siegel, wishing everyone a Chag Purim Sameach, a little joy in this crazy world, and prayers for all the people in Ukraine and soldiers of Russia who have died and still fight in Ukraine, not realizing they are being coerced by a new age of Haman. May we live to see peace soon and in our time. And by Benjamin Triscuit in celebration of Dr. Daniel Ricken, who defended his dissertation this week. I love you and I am so proud of you. Our closing song tonight, it's only one Shabbat a year that we get to sing it. We're singing Pesach Alamano. It is on page 4 of the program. Really sing out for the Amen, 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 even if it's the only word of Ladino you know. Please join us on page 156. We invite you to rise in body and in spirit for Kiddush and Motzi.
יום השישי, ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. סברי חברי מותי
לחיים.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי הגפן.
אמן.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו ברצויותיו ורצבנו ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו זיכרון למעשה וראשית כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש זכר ליציאת מצרים כי באנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת עם כל העמים ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen. And we ask that you reach out your hands if you're in the sanctuary, if you're online, if you're in any time zone towards these beautiful challah loaves, thank you, Lee, as we recite Motzi together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Shabbat shalom.